Hey there, We Can't Wrestle podcast listeners. If you haven't noticed, we have switched our server to Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple, and many, many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, and it's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So go ahead, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Highly recommended by me and everybody else here at the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to the We Can't Wrestle podcast. And Nate, Aaron, and Kyle here with you. Gentlemen, how's it going?
I'm good.
It's good. It was all in last night.
Yes, it was all in, not just the tip, right?
No.
It was all in.
It was all in.
So
maybe that's my problem why I'm divorced. Maybe I'm the bad guy on that. maybe it's my fault for not going all in. I don't know. But
I know the listeners of the show, some may have seen the show, some may not have seen the show. But well, let's talk about it briefly. What did you guys think overall?
It was a pretty good show.
Yeah, it was. I will say fuck Spectrum.
Yeah, we had some internet connection issues. The first issues of the night were streaming issues from the pay-per-view itself. We were watching on Honor Club, and then the last issues were, Spectrum just decides randomly once or twice a day to just turn your internet off. So, I don't know.
Unfortunately, I got there towards the very end because it was my nephew's birthday, so...
Yeah, well, but towards the very end in a wrestling pay-per-view, and nowadays you still got 3 hours left, so...
Yeah, I mean, It was,
Because wrestling pay-per-views are now all-day things. So, overall, I thought the show was pretty good. I think that if they were billing it as the biggest indie show of all time, it lived up to the hype. Lots of indie show staples. You had your fairly unknown wrestlers on the show. You had a garbage match. You had a women's match. You had some legends. The Booker put himself over as the champion. So it was your standard indie show, pretty much.
Well, I put this out there. I put on the internet, and I'll read it as I wrote it. It says, Joey Ryan mocking The Undertaker was the only black eye on an otherwise good show last night. Fuck Joey Ryan. He should be tarred and feathered, then dragged into the street and pissed on. He's disrespectful, he's a disrespectful, untalented piece of trash. Okay?
Yes.
That's what I said about that.
I saw that.
Okay.
Yeah, and fair enough, because really and truly and honestly, that was about the stupidest thing I think I probably have ever seen, was giant dicks coming out and fucking...
carrying off Hangman Page.
Yeah, it's like, you guys are wanting to take this fucking serious, you want this to be a serious thing, and then you're gonna fucking do that.
Yeah, I don't find the guy entertaining, never have, never will.
So I'm with Aaron. Fuck Joey Ryan.
Fuck Joey Ryan.
You lollipop sucking cocksucker. Fuck you. I'm with Aaron. I hope he gets hit by a car.
No, a UPS truck.
Oh.
Yes, that's what I put.
I just hope he gets fucking... I just hope he fucking stubs his toe, because, and then it gets infected, and... fucking, that's too easy to fucking just kill him.
Let it die slow, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like Tupac.
Then this one guy jumped me. He started yelling at me, and was like, I don't even remember what his name was, but he's a piece of shit too. Yeah, let's see this. This Panch. I guess that's how you say his name. Panch.
I don't know.
But this guy says, I thought it was funny. And then this other guy says, and this was the guy that was attacking me, this Panch guy. And he goes, I actually laughed. Then this Chris guy said, I actually laughed too. How'd you like the show overall, Panch? And then you know what he said?
What?
I haven't watched it yet. Just a few highlights.
Well, then... See, that's what I fucking hate.
So I like this Chris guy. This Chris guy is like, you're arguably the worst fan of all time.
Did you buy it and watch it? Nah, I'm gonna wait till.
But damn it, I got something to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, you fucking people just got something to fucking say.
You're arguably the worst fan of all time.
Yeah.
Oh, so coming up on the show this week. Go ahead.
Because this is what this guy said. Nobody actually buying All In stayed away because of Joey Ryan. First off, he wasn't even announced to appear on the show. So anyone using that excuse is a fucking liar. Secondly, all of you people claiming Joey Ryan is horrible don't even watch indie wrestling. Anyway, you're just looking for something to complain about. This is a guy that hadn't watched the show yet. But then this guy is funny because he's like, you may not like Joey Ryan, but you know who he is, and people talk about him exactly what a wrestler wants. And then this Baronowski guy goes, a lot of people also know who Buck Zumhofe is.
Well, I mean, in that same thing, it's like everyone knows who fucking Jared Fogle is. Everyone knows who Adolf Hitler is. I mean, just because you're fucking known doesn't mean you can either be famous or infamous. And Joey Ryan's fucking infamous.
Yeah, this Panch guy, he pissed me off. He was like, you don't know what you're talking about, and you don't watch indie wrestling. What do you think of the show?
I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't watched it yet.
But I'm going to get on my computer and fucking tell you why it was bad. Like, all right, man. Cool. Speaking of...
So you are arguably the worst fan ever.
Speaking of fun shit, have you guys watched the Eric Bischoff 1994 thing yet? From Kayfabe Commentaries?
No.
Timeline, it is pretty fucking interesting. I watched that, and he goes through a bunch of different stuff, because, well, 1994 is when Hulk Hogan came in, and he said something pretty interesting, that, like, everyone talks about Hulk Hogan getting creative control, and he's like, tell me who the fuck doesn't have creative control if you're a top guy?
Right.
Stone Cold Steve Austin fucking had creative control just because we put it in his contract, but if Stone Cold don't want to do something, he ain't fucking doing it. Same with The Rock or anybody else that's been on top.
Yeah, Stone Cold he vetoed, in 99, he vetoed both a feud with Jeff Jarrett and a feud with Billy Gunn. So...
But yeah, he's just like, I don't understand all the shit talking about it, because anybody who's a top guy is going to have creative control, because if they don't want to do it, well...
The reason I like to listen to Eric Bischoff is because Eric Bischoff is, 99.9, or not 99.9% of the time, I'd say 69.9% of the time, that you can tell Bruce Pritchard is just like towing the line and kind of full of shit. Not necessarily full of shit, but just telling the story from his point of view.
Yeah.
And not accepting sometimes reality. Whereas with the reason I like Bischoff is because Bischoff was more a businessman than a wrestling guy. So Eric Bischoff can speak to the business like a business. And what he says makes sense and is almost irrefutable, a lot of the ways that he says it. Sometimes he is full of his own shit in that he is an arrogant prick, but to be in the position he was in for as long as he was in it, you have to be. So sometimes you have to get past that about him because he's really smug. But overall, most of the time when he talks about stuff, he's right. And you almost have to admit it. And he's also willing to admit when stuff is shit. Like, he'll say, oh yeah, that Dungeon of Doom stuff was ass. But we were just doing it to keep Hogan happy, so from a business standpoint, it's what I had to do. I had to keep my top guy happy. Fuck, I got a company that's losing money, and I've got my hands on Hulk Hogan. Why would I want to piss him off? And then when you listen to it from that perspective, you're like, the guy makes sense.
Right. Well, and it makes a good point, because he's talking about Macho Man coming in, and he's like, I wish I would have appreciated Macho Man more for everything he did than what I did.
Mm-hmm.
Because, he's like, with Macho Man, I didn't have to pay a goddamn thing.
No, Slim Jim pretty much...
it blew me away, because he's like, yeah, for that first year, I didn't pay for Macho Man, Slim Jim did.
Mm-hmm.
So it was fucking free.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Dig it. So on this week's show, we are going to do a top 10 edition of the show. It's going to be top 10 favorite gimmicks of the 90s. And the only parameters when I gave this to the guys was that the gimmick had to have been created and debuted between 1990 and 1999. That was the only parameter. So we're talking about gimmicks from the 90s that were created in the 90s and debuted in the 90s. Now, before we get to that, we will do our standard modern product talk. We already talked about All In. What did Aaron? Have you watched Raw or SmackDown yet?
I did get Raw watched.
Okay, I thought the angle at the end of Raw was actually one of the better angles they've done in a while. I liked the Strowman quote unquote heel turn. I don't know what anybody else thought.
Well, you can't turn somebody heel on Roman Reigns.
Well, but they turned him heel on the Shield. So that's different.
No, they turned him heel on Roman Reigns. He beat up Roman Reigns, so they tried to turn him heel on Roman Reigns. If they wanted him to turn on somebody, he should have been teamed with like Dean Ambrose or somebody that people give a shit about.
Now, what I will say why I think the gimmick worked was when Roman Reigns...
I'm not saying it wasn't a bad angle.
Oh, I know.
I'm just saying.
But from my perspective, the way it worked, first of all, it worked for me personally because I liked it. I liked, it's funny because we came out of the Attitude Era where everything was a swerve all the time. So now it's cool to see a swerve, especially, I didn't see it coming. Like, you know what I mean? Like, most of the time in pro wrestling now, something happens and you're like, well, I saw that coming. And that wasn't surprising. That was same old. This was actually like a good old-fashioned wrestling angle that played out on the show.
It's funny when they get to Hell or whatever, they're gonna boo Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose too.
Well, it's not the first time that Roman Reigns has brought heat on people,
Well, but it also, I mean, to that matter, you know what? Fuck those people, because
they'll try to end it with that match.
But something like that is just if these people start booing, I mean, they don't have to prove it to me. I won't say that because they already prove it to me all the time. The modern wrestling fan are the worst people ever. If these people start booing Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, who 2 weeks ago they just were gooing in their pants over because they're aligned with Roman Reigns, then they're lame fucking wrestling fans anyway. Like, I'm actually almost sick of people booing Roman Reigns. The guy's not terrible. He shouldn't have been pushed down people's throats. I understand that. But it's time to stop that garbage, like, whatever. I don't know. I'm not trying to come to WWE's defense, but what I am saying is that especially like your New York crowds and shit like that, these people are just terrible fans. Like, why do you even go?
It's like I said last night. I said the thing about it is that the people fucking work, and they think they're the smart ones, and it's like, no, you're not, because guess what? Roman Reigns is a heel. Mm-hmm. Because, the fucking heel as we know it doesn't exist anymore.
Right. Well,
I'm sorry.
It doesn't. And the Attitude Era blurred those lines anyway between face and heel. So I mean, you do have your guys around that play your standard babyface or your standard heel. Like, well, I mean, I can't even say it about Miz anymore. I used to say Miz was a great heel, but if I'm judging by heel standards of, the 80s and 90s, then he's a terrible heel because people are actually cheering him now. So now you almost just have to look at a wrestler as to whether they're a good or bad performer.
But even then, it's okay. Think about how many times have you watched a Monday Night Raw and Kevin Owens will come out and be like, "You fans here in Philadelphia suck," and everyone's like, "Yeah,
we suck,"
because they, Kevin Owens cuts a good promo and he's a good wrestler. So what's to hate about him?
Right. Well,
people like the fact that he's a good heel.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you make a heel a heel? Well, by fucking making people think that Roman Reigns is being pushed down their throats.
Yeah,
it's not as black and white as it was, and yet people were bitching about it, like, oh, well, Roman Reigns is getting pushed. Yeah, because they're fucking wanting you to think that, because you're getting work, because Vince is just as much of a fucking genius as he was 20 years ago.
And he, I guess to a certain extent also, if Raw's in Los Angeles or Raw's in New York or Raw's in Pittsburgh or Raw's in, your certain areas where you have a rougher crowd or whatever, you're going to have those reactions. But I think another thing they look at with Roman is when they go to Des Moines or they go to Topeka, Roman Reigns gets cheered just like they want him to. And he sells the most merchandise. Of course, they also produce the most merchandise for him and make more merchandise available for him. But he is the number one merchandise seller in the company now too. So somebody's buying the shit,
Well, and that's a good point, because you think about it, they have the WWEshop.com or whatever, and the thing about that is that any of us can go on there and buy fucking a T-shirt from there, but. When's the last time you bought a T-shirt from WWE Shop and it wasn't Pro Wrestling Tees?
Right.
The point is the fans that are smart go to Pro Wrestling Tees. And the fucking, to me, the only merch that really gets sold is from kids and people who go to the live shows.
And people that are buying shit for their kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else anybody wanted to mention from Raw?
Nope.
What about SmackDown?
Didn't watch it yet.
Haven't watched it either.
Okay. Well, I know from what I saw of the show, it wasn't terrible. The Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, they have announced that Orton and Jeff Hardy are going to be in a Hell in a Cell match. I don't know if their feud has, whatever. Their feud really doesn't need to, it's not to the point where it even needs, I don't even think they've had a one-on-one match. So
no, but it's a chance for Jeff Hardy to jump off something tall.
Yeah, that, and nowadays, in the modern wrestling era, well, we have a pay-per-view called Hell in a Cell in November, or in September, so hopefully we have some. That's what's funny if you think about, if you're trying to think about it like it's real and not fixed. That would mean the WWE promoters were just praying every single year that come September, October, they were going to have some people that really wanted to beat each other up inside a Hell in a Cell.
That's why, people shit talk in your house, but I enjoyed it because it's like each in your house was a separate thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was in your house, but then they could do a tagline like Revenge of the Taker or Buried Alive or Final Four. And it felt more spontaneous. It felt more real.
Yeah. if you want to say that, yes. All right. I don't think there's anything else. We've covered all in Raw, SmackDown. Probably the most interesting thing going on right now on NXT is the Who Attacked Aleister Black storyline.
Yeah.
And it'll be Rikishi. He did it for The Rock, and he did it for the people.
I did it for Kono Reeves. I did it for the people.
Speaking of The Rock, for those of you that have not heard yet, apparently WWE is trying to get The Rock to come to WrestleMania this year to face Roman Reigns in the main event.
Why?
For two reasons. First of all, somehow, someway, it's like they think that having a match with The Rock is going to get the guy over more. But secondly, the other reason that they're pushing to try to get Rock to face Roman in the main event at WrestleMania is it's their own doing, in that they focus so much on legacy stars during WrestleMania season that they don't ever build anybody up enough to be a challenger for their big star at WrestleMania. You know, we've gone through this era of Goldberg and Lesnar and et cetera, and Undertaker and stuff at the top of WrestleMania, and you've essentially not created WrestleMania-worthy main event stars to main event WrestleMania.
Yeah. But I don't know. The problem is that somewhere it has to start. I mean, you have to do it somewhere. Can't fucking. I mean, in 5 years, fucking Rock ain't gonna do it anymore.
Yeah. Well, and they just, I don't know. The guy they've done, other than the Shield, the guy they've done the best with the past 10 years is Braun Strowman. They did create something with Braun Strowman, but there have been so many things that had so much potential that didn't get, Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens should be 20 times the star he is with the talent that he has. Finn Balor. Bray Wyatt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, just so much that you could have had this new era of wrestlers where you wouldn't even need those legacy stars to come.
But I think the real true big problem is the fact that you've already seen all the matches.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
that's just a symptom of the way the business is now. I don't know, and this was one I'd like to hear Aaron's opinion on too. I don't know. Could you ever go back? Could you ever, in today's television environment, go back to squash match wrestling?
No.
I think you could.
They don't know they can't because nobody knows how to do it. Anybody that knew how to do it is no longer in the wrestling business.
Right, and
the people writing the wrestling business are not wrestling people. Right,
and like I said, I mean, you have with the way in the 70s and the 80s and the early 90s. Yeah, I mean, in the 80s and 90s there was cable, but there weren't 700 cable channels. There weren't streaming. There, with so many options and so much now, social media, all the distractions people have. I don't know if human beings have the attention span for to watch wrestling the way it was booked back then, I don't think that the modern era of entertainment would allow for it, and it's unfortunate because, like you said, Kyle, with we've seen all the matches. Well, the reason for that is because you don't have, before you'd have a month and a half, 2 months before you'd ever see even a Jim Duggan wrestle somebody that was on his level, He'd spend 6 weeks wrestling the Brooklyn Brawler and Dwayne Gill and shit and just talking about Nikolai Volkov before you ever even got to watching him wrestle Nikolai Volkov. Now, if it was booked today, Nikolai Volkov would cut a promo on Duggan and they'd be on pay-per-view 2 weeks later and they'd be having their blow-off match already.
They'd be in that night.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I don't know how or if you fix that.
Well, it's because WWE has like 12 television shows and 3 pay-per-views a month.
Yeah, that is true.
At least that's what it feels like.
Yep. It's too much, man.
I want the business to bottom out. I want everything to completely fail.
Enjoyed last night. It was nice watching a show where I wasn't being fucking held by the hand of the goddamn announcers, and I didn't have to hear stupid jokes and people fucking playing. It was fucking refreshing. I had to hear fucking goddamn Michael Cole fucking trying to make jokes. Fuck you, Michael Cole. Fuck you, Byron Saxton.
Oh, I hate you, Byron Saxton. All right, well, we'll go ahead and take a break. We're done with the modern talk. We'll talk now, like I said, coming up, we'll have our top 10s, top 10 90s gimmicks. That's the only parameter. And Aaron, you're going first.
Yeah.
And Kyle, you can go second, and I'll go last.
Okay.
All right. So we will return with more of the We Can't Wrestle podcast right after this, wrestling fans. Welcome back to the We Can't Wrestle podcast, ladies and gentlemen, and thank God that we are living now, apparently, thankfully, in a post-Starcast world. As a podcast listener, I can say that.
I'm not even going to... No. Don't.
Well, welcome back. Top 10s are here. And, Kyle?
Uh-huh.
You were saying during the break you wanted to lay something on us when we came back on the air.
Yeah, I'm sick and tired of hearing people talk about Eminem's new album being, like, amazing. It fucking sucks. It's horrible. I heard all this fucking talk from people about, like, oh, it's amazing. It's like, no, it's fucking not. It's really fucking stupid. And fuck you all if you like it, because it's fucking horrible.
Well, I didn't know Eminem had a new album out.
You know hip-hop's gone... You know hip-hop's gone south when the best rap song of the past 10 years is Ric Flair Drip.
Yeah. Well, like I said, people are like, oh, this fucking new album's amazing. And, like, I listened to, like, a little bit of it, and I was like, yeah, no. I hate music now. This is great.
Well, I don't know why you should be surprised that Eminem didn't have a good album.
No, it's not even about
Eminem has never had a good album.
The fact is that it shocked me that people are like, oh, this is great music. It's like, no, it's fucking not.
He's like the Marilyn Manson of rap music.
Yeah, fuck.
Everybody thought he was good, and he's not, and he never has been. He's a niche that just needs to go away.
I don't even think he's a niche. He's just... It's a rap guy fucking... Yeah. Doing black music, and it's like... You're not even good.
To me, it always sounds like he's got a shit. But anyway.
So yeah, fuck Eminem. Fuck his new album. And fuck anybody that thinks it's amazing, because it's not.
All right, first guy on my list.
Unless you're a listener of the We Can't Wrestle podcast, then please.
No.
We only have 485 of them.
I bet you the 485 of them don't listen. Same thing if you're a fucking juggalo. Fuck you, too. You damn.
I'm surprised they're not on your list.
They're ever going to be on any of my lists.
All right, speaking of lists.
Fuck the ICB.
Aaron's going first. These are the top 10 favorite 90s wrestling gimmicks. Shoot. Number 10.
Hogan. Hollywood Hulk Hogan. Are you guys surprised?
Oh.
That the Hollywood Hulk Hogan gimmick's on your list? No.
Yeah.
The Hollywood Hulk Hogan gimmick made
it's like you heard a rumor.
The Hollywood Hulk... fuck.
Who?
The Hollywood Hulk Hogan gimmick...
Hollywood Hulk Hogan.
made a lot of money in the 90s and changed wrestling.
Well, I think it was a gimmick that fucking rejuvenated Hulk Hogan's career.
Yes, because it was done. So I'm not saying he was done, but the glory had definitely worn away. So why did you put Hollywood Hulk Hogan as number 10 on your list, Aaron?
Just because it was a game changer, and the guy had been boring since like 1991. You know?
Yeah.
People talk about how by the time when he went to WCW, he was pretty stale in the WWE too, and it was like a lot of the same old. So I don't think the guy deserves. I almost said deserves. I don't think the guy actually gets enough credit for changing the business. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people talk about, like, oh, there was Stone Cold Steve Austin and this guy and that guy. It's like Hogan was the catalyst for all of it, I think. Because when Hogan changed and the industry was like, hey, Hogan changed, we all gotta change.
I think it's a credit to him that he was able to be the biggest selling, the best selling as far as merch and everything else, and selling out arenas as a good guy, and then turn around and be able to do it as a bad guy as well is fucking a testament to him.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so that's why he's on my list. Anything else?
On mine too, so.
Any more?
Yeah, not anymore.
Anything else?
No.
Alright, the next gimmick on my list is the Heartbreak Shawn Michaels.
Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels.
Is he on anybody else's?
He's not on mine,
no. He's not on mine. But what a lot of people that know of the legacy, like of the later career of Shawn Michaels of being, the man. When I think of the gimmick of the Heartbreak Kid of Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels, I think of 1992 to 1995.
With Sherry and Push.
Well, yeah, just the when I think of the gimmick, the Heartbreak Kid, I think of the early heel Shawn Michaels. Like once you get into like 97 and stuff, he's just Shawn Michaels. You know what I mean? But that gimmick got major heat, and yeah, his pairing with Sherry was, to my opinion, one of the best pairings ever between a wrestler and a manager. They just worked so well together. And
I was actually a fan of him in Luna too.
Yeah,
I don't think that gets near as credit.
And Aaron will agree with me on this. I don't think a lot of people think about this either, but one of the biggest contributors in the 90s when that Heartbreak Kid gimmick first came around to its success was Bobby Heenan.
Yeah.
Like when Bobby Heenan put somebody over big, whether he was in the booth or whatever, it totally, like Bobby Heenan, with the Shawn Michaels has left the building and whistling along with his music, and this man, she's in love with him, Monsoon. Look at her, she's in love with him. Just Bobby Heenan putting it over really put it over the top too. And it was funny because at that time he was kind of chubby.
Yeah.
So, Shawn Michaels. It was also like one of the best swerves in wrestling history too. When you put Marty through the window, and all that. Through the
window, through the wall,
to the wall.
Sweat off HBK's balls. Yeah, because you almost didn't see that one coming because they foreshadowed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They pushed it so hard that they were going to break up that you didn't actually think it was going to happen. Because they used to do that shit all the time. They'd be like, is the Legion of Doom on the outs and in the magazines and stuff, and they didn't really put it over that big. Or they'd use it as a way to get the team to get like some rejuvenation. And then when it finally did happen, to be honest, when it did happen, it almost seemed like Marty would be the one to turn.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right.
Thank God he didn't.
Well, I think you guys are remembering it wrong. Throw Marty through the window. Marty jumped through the window to get away from Sean.
Bobby Heenan. Oh, see, I knew they were fine. I knew that was gonna happen. From the very beginning, he was putting that shit over.
Yes. He was the most entertaining thing in a dreadful time in the WWE. If it wouldn't have been for Brett and Owen and Shawn Michaels, it would have been pretty rough.
Rough.
Just saying.
All right, who's number 8?
Gold Dust.
Yep.
Good call. I did not have Goldust on my list, but I should.
Everything on my list is a good call, or it wouldn't be on my list. Goldust was the experiment.
Goldust was indeed the test balloon. Like, how much can we push the envelope?
And in a lot of ways, it was unfair to the guy, because by the time they got to the Attitude Era, it had run its course. But that dude was Vince's test balloon. Wanted to see how far he could go.
That gimmick pushed the envelope. It set a new standard in wrestling, like I said, for going out there with a character. And yeah, you're right. Like, not only had it kind of reached its apex before the Attitude Era began, but to me, another thing that killed Goldust was when Vince Russo got his hands on it. Because, and it's not that I completely dislike I liked the Luna Goldust angles, but once you got past that, like when he would turn him into, he's just Dustin Runnels, and you know, and I mean, it just loses its luster when you do that crap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just Dustin Runnels, and then next week he's Goldust again because the Dustin Runnels thing didn't work. They never should have taken the makeup off him in the first place, and just some of the stuff that Russo booked him to do was just hot garbage, and that put the final nail in the coffin for the character. And then, I mean, it had its resurgence in the 2000s, which was awesome for Dustin. I mean, Booker T and Goldust is awesome. Tourette's Goldust.
Yeah, and that Goldust, I think that's just. I don't want to say it like this.
Dustin with makeup on.
It's just Dustin with makeup on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was the Goldust character.
I'm just saying, I'm glad he got his revival.
I'm glad he did too. But like I said, that gimmick, it was like I said, sad that it came along. It's like a double-edged sword, because in a lot of ways it sucked because it was the test balloon for the Attitude Era, and by the time it got to the Attitude Era, it was dead.
Mm-hmm.
But if they would have not done it at the time that they did it, it would have just been another gimmick in the Attitude Era.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would have been anything.
I mean, one of my favorite moments in a WrestleMania is the crowd reaction to Roddy Piper ripping off Goldust's outfit. And Goldust is in, like, the bra and panties and stuff, and people are just like,
yeah.
no.
Whoa, he is wearing panties and a teddy.
People, wrestling fans, that was like, wrestling fans never seen no shit like that.
Yeah, it's like, whoa.
No, that crowd's reaction, because they're actually a little bit dead during that.
First time we saw, they had to be on Goldust. But yeah.
All right. Number 7.
Trying to not go in the order that I wrote them. Let's go with Farouk.
Fuck. He was on my list.
He wasn't on mine. That's a good pick.
That gimmick was great. And that gimmick was like the Farouk gimmick was triggering before triggering was a thing. Like, That's another gimmick that kind of changed things, like pushing the envelope.
Yeah.
And
the only thing they did with it that I didn't like was that they took Sun away from him.
They what?
That they took Sun away from him.
Yeah. Yeah, because you go to do a wrestling show in Alabama.
If you're gonna go for it, go for it.
Yeah, and why not have a big black guy with a blonde white lady when you go to Alabama? I mean, what better way to get some heat?
It's not like if somebody tried something, Ron Simmons wouldn't be able to handle himself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but yeah, that gimmick was a great gimmick, and it was controversial, but you had the right guy playing the role because he could back up everything he said in the ring. When he said, "You ain't giving a black man the championship," and essentially he's saying, "I'm a good wrestler. I'm one of the best in the business. I'm a badass motherfucker, and you're not giving me title shots because I'm black." Or, it's just his storyline with Ahmed Johnson. Ahmed Johnson was the shits, but Farouk made it work. Farouk made chicken shit into chicken salad with that one.
I also like the fact that, and they only once, and it was one of the only times I ever seen him do it. Just like, that looks like Ron Simmons. That is Ron Simmons. And then he's like, "No, I'm Farouk."
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, he changed his name.
Yeah. Yeah. I changed my name because I got the Nation of Domination.
Yeah, like, they let Jerry Lawler mention that was Ron Simmons, and then let it go from there, And I just think the gimmick was cool, and even after, just everything that he turned the career into in the WWF. I mean,
yeah, can't argue with that success. Yeah. Like I said, that gimmick was, I don't know, that was another game changer in the 90s. It was another, and that one's one, unlike Austin or Hogan or Goldust or somebody like that. That one's one that was a game changer that doesn't get a lot of attention when they talk about people that changed the game in the 90s.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree. And Farouk was number 10 on my list, so off he goes.
All right, next name is Kane.
Damn it. Big Daddy Kane. You can rival that gimmick right up next to his kayfabe brother as a gimmick that WWE created, and it has longevity. It started, I think, from everything I've ever heard, that gimmick was only supposed to last through WrestleMania. But you had a quality human being, a quality talent playing the gimmick, and he was able to make that shit thrive for over 20 years now.
And it's still technically going.
Yeah.
Who would know? He's the mayor now.
Mayor of Knoxville, Tennessee.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, Kane, the big mystery about Kane was a very cool, layered storyline. One of the best things about that storyline in WWE at the time when it started was that it was just in the background for a while. Undertaker had other stuff going on. He was going through other feuds, different things were happening, and this Kane thing was kind of happening in the background and just building this anticipation. And then, the big reveal at Hell in a Cell 97, and it's off to the races after that.
And
thank goodness it wasn't Papa Shango, right?
Yeah, and it's evolved over the years. He's kept it. I mean, there was points where it was kind of stagnant, Mm-hmm. But he
like
never
ECW Kane.
he never phoned it in or anything.
No,
Glenn
Jacobs, the performer, has never phoned it in at all. It was, if there's ever been a misstep with the character, it's been on the creative side. Like the two that come to mind the most in my mind are the May 13th or May 23rd or whatever the fuck, that whole deal where we could hear his thoughts. That was lame. And then, like I said, ECW Kane. Yeah, not so much. But
anything else on Kane?
Kyle, you got anything else on Kane?
No, I think he's one of the guys that I wish that they would have never took the mask off.
I think I used to think that.
They had to.
When they first did it, I thought that. But then as time went on, I thought, by taking the mask off and letting him use his face and change his personality because he didn't have the mask, it probably added to the longevity of his character because he could add more dimension to the character.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if they would have never taken the mask off of Juventud. He would have never made it to Kyle's list.
I'm still fucking. How many episodes we're coming up to? 50.
Yeah, 50 episodes.
I thought you put him on. I figured he was going to be on your list of gimmicks.
And
because I tried to pick at least one gimmick that never worked for the WWE, so I thought you did the same thing by picking Juventud.
That's fine. I'm still 0 and almost 50 for not falling asleep, so that's fine.
Well, it's because I keep people entertained.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
Anyway, next on my list is Mankind.
Bastard.
Oh, I know. Nate, do you hate me too? Is Mankind on your list?
No, Mankind's not on my list.
Okay. Kyle, why was Mankind on your list?
Because, and you know what? Honestly, before they changed everything and made it, like, I'm a big fan of when Mankind first debuted and like his story and everything. They used this mutilated, tortured soul, and everything was about mankind, and mankind will suffer. Then, yeah, I know it was that they kind of did the backstory of Mick Foley, but I don't know. There's a piece of me that enjoyed the original Mankind.
Yeah, and that Mankind was fun, and it was a little edgy at the time too, and it was like the first guy to really kind of debut against the Undertaker. That didn't happen very much. Didn't happen at all that I know of, other than Jake Gonzalez. Would that be about it?
He's another one where it's a good thing he didn't come in as the original name they had for him. Oh, it's Mankind the Mutilator.
Yeah, and it's another guy that people talk about. Oh, he should have been in the WWF a long time ago. Sometimes shit like that happens for a reason, you know.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have fit in the WWF in the 80s and early 90s. Cactus Jack wouldn't have worked.
No.
He just wouldn't have.
No, if Cactus Jack would have come into WWF in like 92 or something, he'd have been gone pretty quick. It just wouldn't have worked.
Yeah. And even like what, I think Mick started in what, like
85 or 86?
Yeah, so if he would have got even there even then, like even before then, it would have not been like Cactus Jack Manson wouldn't have worked in the WWF.
Mm-hmm.
He would have wound up having like a 6-month-old run in there, and then fucking Billy Jack Haynes would have beat him or something, and then he would have been gone.
Well, I was going to say,
never been back.
At the most, he may have been one of those guys that got to do a house show loop with Hogan as an ugly heel or whatever, and then out the door.
Yeah, and you would have never heard from him again. So, a lot of this, like I said, a lot of these gimmicks is right place, right time, and also the guy performing them, and nobody else could have done Mankind other than Cactus Jack or Mick Foley. So, and there's, I mean, you could add Dude Love to this list too. You know, like Three Faces of Foley. Dude Love was a fun gimmick. It's not on my list, but like Heel Dude Love is one of the best characters ever, in my opinion. I love Heel Dude Love. He was great. So, anything else on Mankind?
Not here.
All right. This guy on my list is Raven.
Good pick.
Good pick. Not on my list, but good pick.
And I'm talking ECW Raven, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Because after he got out of there, nobody really knew what to do with him. He's kind of like...
It's kind of like Paul Heyman's Bret Hart.
Bret Hart.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Nobody else knew what the hell to do with this guy other than Paul, which was just shut the fuck up and let him do his thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. I mean...
I think Eric Bischoff's completely off base when he talks about Scott Levy. And I just think that the Raven character itself, if you understand it, you pay attention to it, is amazing.
It is a very good gimmick.
And it wasn't just a good gimmick with Tommy Dreamer, you know.
Yeah.
The other acts he had people were really good. I love his feud with Terry Funk. I love his feud with Sandman. You know, all that shit worked. And honestly, I don't think ECW would have been what it was without the Raven character. Just so much of everything that happened in ECW came out of what Raven was doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say that. He was the impetus for a lot of things that happened in ECW. And he was he was a participant in one of the few angles I ever liked in TNA.
His feud with Larry Zbyszko.
When Larry Zbyszko was the commissioner, yes, I love it. Larry Zbyszko and Raven is probably there's probably only 5 people in the entire world that remember it, and Raven and Zbyszko are 2 of them. But I thought it was gold.
There would have never, I should say never, but the Dudley Boys, they exist because of Raven. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just all these, everything that was going on in ECW was because of something to do with Raven, and it was ECW was when he was the highlight of it. You know what I mean? Main event guy of it. That's when ECW, I think, was at its best.
Yes.
I know everybody talks about 97 or whatever, and that's fine, but I think ECW lost some of its luster after he left and went to WCW. In my opinion.
Lost its backbone.
Yeah.
Kinda, yeah. Because Shane Douglas was never that guy to me.
No, he wasn't. And it's if you don't have we don't have a reason for this guy to be here. What can we do with him? Oh, he's an associate of Raven. You know what I mean? And then Raven made it work.
Mm-hmm.
He got a fat guy and a moderately talented guy over enough where they wound up in the WWE and WWF. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm not knocking Stevie Richards, but if Stevie Richards wouldn't have been attached to Raven, he would have never been.
No, he'd have never.
He was.
He'd have never got noticed by a major wrestling company.
And Blue Meanie, he would have never been nothing. So, I just think the Raven character is awesome. Anything else on that?
Not for me.
Kyle? Is Kyle dead?
No, I'm here.
Well, you didn't answer if you had anything else on Raven.
Oh. Nope.
Okay. Got 3 more left. So let's go with Mr. McMahon.
Mr. McMahon. How do you argue with that? Mr. McMahon, you talk about
greatest character in the history of professional wrestling.
You talk about an entire organization revolving around someone like we did Raven. Literally, the entire organization revolved around the Mr. McMahon character. One of my favorite things about it, and we could talk more about the character itself, but one of my favorite things about when Vince was the dastardly heel Mr. McMahon, trying to control his whole show and everything. I always liked it when once in a while he'd have interaction with guys that he wasn't actually involved with. Mr. McMahon has some interaction with D'Lo Brown or something. I always thought that was fun, You know, you only ever saw him really like with Austin and Rock and Taker and Mick and Kane, but it was always fun to me to see him interact with some of the lower level guys too. Like they just show those random shows where you see him in the back making matches or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that character, so entertaining.
Right. No, and he was, as Aaron said, he's probably the best character, best gimmick. Wasn't on my list, but...
Well, he's just... Vince McMahon, Mr. McMahon's the man. And even to this day, like, well, not this day, but a couple years back, when he looked at Shane, it was like, you're going to catch a fucking beating. Like, right there in front of the ring. You know what I mean? Like, if anybody else would be like, you're going to catch a fucking beating, they would have been fired. You know, but anyway, I'm just saying, like, the guy... He's a great gimmick. He's the best gimmick of all time, I think. He's the greatest heel of all time.
Who doesn't hate their megalomaniacal boss?
And he's just great in everything that he does. I don't think there's a guy that understands his character more than Vince McMahon does, because it's not much of a character.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, Mr. McMahon chasing the chicken.
I just watch him I'm currently in the middle of watching it. I just watch him get doused with beer.
Mr. McMahon and Mick Foley with the Slurpee cup.
And just... He went out on TV and told everybody they were jealous of him because they had pot bellies and all genitalia. How amazing is that?
And then fast forward to the funny thing is, one of my favorite matches ever in a WrestleMania is when Vince McMahon wrestles Shawn Michaels and does not get one offensive move in the entire match.
Yeah. And then
Shawn Michaels just beats the shit out of him for 20 minutes. It's
one of the
great.
greatest moments in wrestling history is one of the greatest shots in wrestling history is when Bloody Vince pops his head up from the apron when he's on the floor and he's going to hit Hulk Hogan with that pop.
WrestleMania 19, yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. That's great shit.
One of my favorites is when Vince fights Taker at Survivor Series in the Buried Alive. The first fucking punch that Taker throws, immediately Vince is just fucking covered in blood.
Great, because he talks shit all the time.
It's like Regal said, he always got his comeuppance.
And then he'd come out the next week and be like,
I'm still Vince McMahon, damn it.
Still Vince McMahon, damn it. He's great. So I love me some Vince McMahon. He's great. So, with that being said, you can't talk about Vince McMahon without talking about Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Stone Cold was number one on my list.
You know, honestly, he was going to be on my list, but I took him off because of the fact that I felt like it was, already said. And then I knew everybody else was going to bring him and bring him to the table, so it's like I wanted to... But yeah, I don't blame you one bit.
Stone Cold Steve Austin is the Stone Cold gimmick. Is the greatest gimmick ever. But secondly, like the best Stone Cold is early
1996.
Stone Cold. Yes, early 96, 97 Stone Cold is the best Stone Cold.
When he first started, like the whole... You talking about like when he
was just an asshole?
Yeah.
Yeah, when he took off of what was the Richard Kuklinski Iceman? When he based it off of that, he was just like you might think that's cold. It's Stone Cold.
Or
that was like the development. That was like the beginning of it. I think like just the boss when he was just like shoving Brian Pillman's head in the toilet and beating up cameramen and telling Vince to shut up. I mean, like, he was just an asshole. That's when he was the best.
Well, you'd think about that character. One of the greatest segments, in my opinion, one of the greatest segments in the history of Monday Night Raw couldn't have happened without that character. And that's the fucking Bret Hart ambulance segment.
Yeah, the whole show's awesome.
You're right. That whole episode is one of the best episodes of Raw ever. And talk about being a catalyst, like a Raven character, talking about being a catalyst for so many things to happen. Stone Cold Steve Austin's character is responsible pretty much for Bret Hart's heel turn. Stone Cold Steve Austin's character was responsible for Vince McMahon's heel turn into Mr. McMahon. Stone Cold Steve Austin's character is the reason we ever saw Dude Love. Stone Cold Steve Austin's character is responsible for the rise of The Rock, because without Austin to dance with, would The Rock have been a bit as big a star as he was? Just so many things that
a lot can be said that he's partially responsible for Shawn Michaels turning heel.
Yeah.
Because he started becoming more popular than Shawn Michaels, and when they ended up feuding, Shawn was the bad. Like, we're gonna cheer Shawn no matter what, unless he was fighting Shawn Michaels, or unless he was fighting Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, that was a good list.
I have one more.
Oh! I thought Austin was the tops.
Oh, I don't put him in, like, I picked this guy first. This guy. I have one more guy.
All right.
And it's Razor Ramon.
Damn it.
Son of a bitch.
Razor Ramon's one of
You can't go by to that guy.
Razor Ramon was number 5 on my list, and not only one of the greatest gimmicks of the 90s, but one of the best gimmicks ever. I like Razor Ramon because Razor Ramon worked as a face and a heel. Like, he worked as an asshole face. Or an asshole heel, and he worked as an asshole face.
I don't know, but that's what I'm going to start calling people that I don't like.
Asshole face.
You're an asshole face.
He was like, his character, it's going to sound funny, but his character is like The Rock. Because whether he was a babyface or a heel, he never changed.
I just smile a little bit more, but other than that...
Yeah. Hey, yo.
Alright.
Take a look at the bad guy. And he is, to me, as identified with, like, you think of a championship, and you think of certain guys, and, like, when I think of the Intercontinental Championship, I think about Mr. Perfect, Razor Ramon, and Bret Hart.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 guys I think, and Shawn Michaels. So those are the 4 guys I think about when I think about the Intercontinental Championship.
But I just think the guy, the guy created the gimmick himself. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But like WWF or WWE, or you want to call them, they can say what they want to say, that when he left, he took the Razor gimmick with him, and it wasn't, like, he's infringing upon our likeness rights, or whatever. It's like, well, he was doing that before he got there.
Right.
You guys just helped him put legs to it.
Yes.
And, like, the toothpick thing, he was already doing that, the slicked hair. The only thing they did was give it a backstory and a purpose, and put a name to the gimmick, And I love that shit when he first comes in, like when he's driving around in his car, when he's eating at that restaurant, and his character was an asshole when he first came in. Like, he said asshole, like when he beat up Owen Hart, he's like, "Your daddy teach you that one?
Your daddy teach you that one?
Yeah, daddy teach you that one, Rocket?"
He fucks up that old man's fruit market in that one.
Yeah.
When he's first coming in, like, you don't like the orange or whatever, so he just fucks up the dude's whole fruit market.
Yeah, that's great. I my biggest, like, I shouldn't say regret because I wasn't the guy, but I would have loved to seen, and it didn't even need to be a long one, but maybe like a 4-month reign of Razor Ramon, heel Razor Ramon, as like the WWE champion. Like I would have, like when him and Brett fought at that Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
Like, it would have been cool if he could have beat him at it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Then just had the belt for, like, I don't know, what would have been the next pay-per-view. King Ring? No. Well, it had a bit of pay-per-view, but you know what I'm saying. At some point, it would have been cool to see Scott Hall raise Ramon as the WWF champion, but obviously
I like it when he starts his feud with, when he turns face and starts his feud with Money Incorporated. He's like, money man, tax man.
Yeah, I just like the guy, and I think the guy himself might be the most talented guy to never be a world champion.
He's up there.
And so Razor was on my list, and apparently he was on everybody else's too, so that's the end of mine.
All right, well, when we return from our break, that's Aaron's top 10 gimmicks of the 90s. Kyle will do his list next, and we'll see how many you knock off my list, because Aaron knocked off Stone Cold, Razor, Kane, and Farouk. So 4 of mine are knocked off, and we will take a quick break. We'll come right back with the We Can't Wrestle podcast, and Kyle's top 10 is next. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the We Can't Wrestle podcast on Podbean, Stitcher, etc., etc. And don't forget to check us out on Facebook at the We Can't Wrestle podcast Facebook page as well. I'm going to start posting some polls on there and questions for our fans, maybe even suggestions for what you think we should talk about on the show. And if you ever have any questions for us, if you want to ask a question to the staff or what have you, you can email us at wecan'twrestle@gmail.com. This week's show is a top 10 show. We're doing top 10 gimmicks of the 1990s. And Kyle, you're next. You're on next.
Yay, I'm on first. All right. So first off, we're going to start with, let's start with IRS.
IRS has, it's going to sound silly, but IRS has one of the greatest entrances in wrestling history. Because IRS just comes out of the curtain and talks shit.
Yeah.
But, look, one of his greatest lines ever is at Royal Rumble 1994. He goes, look, every tax cheat in Rhode Island showed up for the Royal Rumble tonight.
And what was great about him was where, like with DiBiase, it was people were happy to see Ted because it's like, oh, he's going to give me money. He's a rich dude. Like, fucking IRS is like, no, I'm the tax man and I'm coming after.
I'm taking your money.
Yeah.
I was never a huge fan of Mike Rotunda, like, in the ring. Not that the guy wasn't. He was a sound professional wrestler, but his style just kind of bored me a little bit. But as a gimmick, yes, a very good heat-seeking gimmick. IRS. Love it. Aaron, anything else on Irwin?
No, just another guy that I like because he was a dick.
All right. So then we'll move on to Yokozuna.
Damn it. Yoko was on my list.
Yoko was when I first started watching wrestling, like Yoko was like the guy for me because I started watching in the early 90s, right?
Mm-hmm.
With my grandma. And like Yoko was like the guy to me that like, it's like, geez, like look at this guy. Like he's fucking massive.
Well, and he was the, you know, I mean, you look at his run as a top heel, and Yokozuna, I'm trying to think, okay, he started his run in 92, late 92. I think he made his debut like right before the Survivor Series in 92. He lost to Bret Hart. He lost to Hulk Hogan. He lost to... Well, him and
Lex Luger by count out.
By count out, him and Bulldog lost to Shawn and D. Essentially, Yokozuna, that character, in his entire probably 4-year run in the company, only ever actually got pinned maybe 2 or 3 times. I mean, that is how you book a monster fucking heel. Like, this is the guy that can only be pinned by Hulk Hogan, Bret Hart, Diesel, and The Undertaker. You know, he beats everybody else on the roster.
Well, not even just that, but it's like, you know, I never saw Andre in his heyday, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I never got to see. So to me, it's like when you see him, you're like, who the fuck's going to pick that guy up? Like, who's going to throw him over the fucking ropes for the Royal Rumble? Who's going to, you know?
Yeah, you talk about larger than life.
Yeah, how do you beat that guy? Like, realistically, like, how do you beat him?
You know, Vince McMahon took one look at him and was like, well, this son of a bitch. But yeah, definitely. And for his size, I don't know. I mean, for his size, he was better than Andre. You know? I mean, as far as being able to... I mean, I guess, because I mean, I really honestly haven't been exposed to a lot of like 1970s Andre the Giant. I've heard in the 70s Andre could really go too, but before his
in the 1970s, Andre exposed himself to a lot of geisha girls, though.
Oh, but yeah, definitely Yokozuna. Like I said, he was on my list. I think he was number 9 on my list. No, number 8.
I understand the dude was a real OG, too, in real life.
Yeah.
Like slanging dope and all kinds of other shit.
Riding bikes with The Undertaker.
Them Samoans, man, people talk about them, but they're into some shady shit. Just saying.
Well, from one fucking Samoan to another, let's go to Rikishi.
Are you talking about Make a Difference Rikishi?
No, I'm talking about fucking Dancing Rikishi when he was with Too Cool and all that.
There was a time where Rikishi was probably next to Austin the most over wrestler on the fucking roster. Like,
it's fucking crazy to go back and watch him. It's like, Jesus Christ, Rikishi. Like,
wrestling fans are like, yes, we want to watch this fat bastard dance.
In his giant diaper.
With his 2 little hillbilly friends.
But just think about it, like, fucking Stinkface was just about as over as the Stunner was.
Yeah, it was like Stunner, Rock Bottom, Stinkface.
I mean, you know, he was a gimmick, and that's what it was. He was a dancing Samoan, but...
His gimmick is one of those, like... His gimmick is one of those that would never have happened had the Attitude Era not happened. You know?
Just think about it, like, they put the fucking glasses on him, and he just, like, fucking almost be transported to a different place.
Turn it into a dance machine. Right. And then he did it for The Rock.
Did it for The Rock.
He did it for the people.
My favorite part of the Too Cool Rikishi music was when he would be like, "Well, that was interesting." And they'd be like, we keep moving around. Yeah. And then she'd be like, well, that was interesting.
All right, my last and not least is
No,
going to be... Yeah, I'm done.
No. Aaron destroyed you then.
This is what this is what Nate was talking about, if you guys don't know.
Make a difference, Rikishi.
Yeah.
Make
it's a song that I have no idea what they say. I know they say something about cleaning something up. But what they're cleaning up, I don't know.
That horrible gimmick.
Just horrible, yes.
But
anyways,
the dancing Rikishi was a great gimmick.
Yes, it was. The last one on my list is Crow Sting.
It's hard to argue with Crow Sting.
I mean,
especially because he never talks.
Well, yeah,
you can't argue with him. That was a joke. Sorry.
But just think how fucking cool that was to see fucking...
They can't all be funny.
Sting fucking turn dark and fucking come down from the rafters, and he basically took on the NWO.
It was that until from late 1996 until Starrcade 97. Crow Sting was one of the best, most layered stories WCW ever told. And God bless Steve Borden, because he got to do jack shit for a living for like a year and a half.
Right. And think about it, because honestly, would Sting, if he had stayed the bleach blonde fucking, do you think he would have had the long he had?
No, what would have happened is he would have just got caught up in the... He would have just got caught up in the WCW getting buried by the NWO all the time. He just would have been another guy getting buried by the NWO. And I think ultimately he would have wound up not with Sting being the guy that saved WCW, but it would have been somebody like Luger or Piper or somebody like that quote unquote saved WCW, even though they didn't let that story play out the way it needed to. Like Starrcade 97 killed his character. And then when he joined the Wolfpack, that completely killed his character. But yeah, you're right. That 96, 97 Crow Sting was it was probably the best gimmick WCW ever made. Better than Goldberg.
I think it was, honestly. I mean, it's
a lot of stuff's better than Goldberg.
But other than that, that's my list.
All right. Well, we'll just roll into mine then. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 left. The first one Aaron's going to disagree with, but to me...
I love Henry Godwinn. What are you talking about?
To me, mid-90s heel in the WWF, Double J Jeff Jarrett. He got good.
I hate the man, but yeah.
He got good heat. He played a really good heel, like a shit heel. Say what you want about him, but at that time he always had a good match with whoever he was wrestling with. And
do you know why I'm not going to disagree with it?
Why is that?
Because the most entertained I've ever been by Jeff Jarrett was when he was Double J Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah, I mean, I dug on that gimmick. I dug on the fact that, this guy, he doesn't even want to be a wrestler. He just wants to use the WWF to get popular in country music. Then he's going to leave. But while he's here, he's going to be a pain in everybody's ass.
That's the most entertaining the guy's ever been in his career. And it was at the time when he was actually still putting on good matches. Like Jeff Jarrett fell into that 1999
walk and brawl
to 2001 style of wrestling and never came out of it.
Mm-hmm. He's still trying to prove that that's the way it should be. But Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think that character, I always liked that character. It was a great heel character for that period of time. And, I mean, if you're talking about a gimmick, you know, like I thought it was a great gimmick. And they picked the right guy. They picked the right guy to do it.
They did. I wish they'd kept with what they were doing with it originally, though, too. I think it would have been even better.
If he had Ronnie P. Gossett and Miss Jackie with him?
Yeah, had like an entourage.
Yeah.
Fat hillbilly gay dude and like a muscle-bound black chick. That would have been some good stuff.
Anything else on Double J, Kyle?
No, I still hate him, but I understand why. He was a good gimmick. I think it's because he was such a good gimmick that I hate him.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I had Farouk also, and Yokozuna and Kane. And then the next one on my list is one that I think it gets looked over because the gimmick didn't get to live itself through, I think, to completion. Because of backstage politics or a
Is
fight.
it the Hand?
No, or a fight at the Hand.
That came out in 2000 anyway, but just...
El Hijo de Young. No, I'm talking about Nails.
I want to help you.
You don't need to help me. I think the gimmick was a really cool monster. I like monster heel gimmicks, though. Like, he may not have been a great wrestler, but, you know, everybody knows I'm a mark for the Warlord. I like a good monster heel. And I thought that no matter how good the guy was in the ring, I thought the gimmick of Nails was cool. And I'm talking about 1992 Nate watching wrestling. I thought Nails was a cool heel. And I thought that the gimmick had potential. And then the guy, like, said Vince McMahon tried to put his finger in his butt or whatever and beat him up. And it was all she wrote. I mean, he was about to feud with Undertaker when he got fired.
Yeah, he discovered, like, Vince will usually have anybody back. But there's two things you don't do. You don't choke slam him, and you don't accuse him of sexual harassment.
But
My favorite part of that was when he fucking tried to say that Vince told him to use steroids. And in the fucking court, they're like, yeah, so here's your wrestling attire, and you have a big fucking orange jumpsuit on.
But no, I know. I heard when I said the name Nails, I heard the deafening silence from my co-hosts, and that's fine. Wrestling,
much like Howard Finkel did.
wrestling.
He announced him.
Wrestling is subjective. Like I said, I thought back to 90's Nate watching wrestling, and I was a mark for Nails, the Nails Big Boss Man feud, and the Nails gimmick. I mean, if I'm talking about a gimmick, I liked that gimmick.
How many more you got in your chamber?
I have 3.
Chamber.
3 more.
So is it Atom Bomb, Mantar, and Abe Knuckleball Schwartz?
Wait, those are on the honorable mentions list. Just kidding.
You know, if Abe Knuckleball Schwartz would have came back in like the Attitude Era when Vince Russo was running it, he would have had like a completely different gimmick.
He put his euphemism for fucking masturbating.
He's
always playing knuckleball.
Yeah.
And it still would have been Steve Lombardi.
Yeah, he's the only guy that can defend himself against naked Midian. Midian's like, I don't want nothing to do with that.
All right.
You want to watch some funny stuff? I know this is completely off the topic. Watch William Regal fight naked Midian.
Yeah, it's funny as fuck.
Shit. Like his facial expressions, when like he goes for like a go behind on him and stuff. Oh my god, it's so funny.
Next on my list was Razor Ramon, and then We're talking late 1992 until SummerSlam 1993.
Matador?
I got to give a big props to Evil Doink the Clown.
Good, that's a good pick.
Just Evil Doink?
Evil Doink. Not Good Doink. Once Good Doink came around, like, Aaron and I have talked about this before, Kyle. I don't know if we've ever said this to you or not, but we used to joke around with our buddies back in the day, you know, when they'd have crazy gimmicks in wrestling or whatever. We'd always joke around about, one day they're going to have a clown. They'll just have a circus clown come out and wrestle. And then they did it.
You're like, my God, they did it.
But the cool thing that they did with that first, 10 months of Doink, that was a cool-ass character. Essentially the bipolar clown.
And for all intents and they make... Everyone talks shit about WrestleMania 9, but him and Crush, when fucking the other Doink comes out...
Mm-hmm. The mind games.
They do the mirror thing. It was fun.
Yeah, well, and I mean, just the gimmick and just like the promos and how he'd have that. That how cool would that gimmick have been had it come around in the Attitude Era? How much more dark could it have been? Because they were kind of going pretty dark with that character at one point, and like there was a time, if you remember, where it was like they didn't even care if he had a little bit of stubble under his makeup. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. It just, I don't know, and just the changing of the expression and the facial, and then once again, here he comes again, Bobby Heenan. Bobby Heenan helped get that gimmick over really good. Who is this guy? I know this guy. And just, I don't know, just the subtle little things, and Matt Bourne... whether he was fucking a drug addict and an asshole or whatever, I got to say Matt Bourne did that character justice, and I even liked it when he did Born Again in ECW.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. Everyone's like, "Oh, he was a drug addict and he was an asshole." Well, fucking, you were among men in that day. I mean, everyone was a fucking drug addict and an asshole. I mean, my God, it's like they talk like. It's like, really? Oh, Shawn Michaels wasn't a drug addict and an asshole?
Right. But yeah, like I said, I mean, I don't know if you guys have anything else on that character.
Jack Tunney, he wasn't a drug addict and an asshole?
I don't know if you guys have anything else on Evil Doink, but Evil Doink is a standout to me in the 90s.
I like the fact that with Doink, they let him kind of be mean to the crowd and the kids.
Yep.
And I know... you were joking when you said that you had honorable mentions, but I actually do.
Disco Inferno?
No, I'll go when we're done. There's two that I'm going to put on my list and I changed my mind, and then two that they were personal favorite for me, but go ahead, Nate, sorry.
In the mid-90s, Aaron lived through this as my brother with me, and he saw how butthurt I was when this character did not continue on, and it was more because of the guy's health and that he was broke down and everything that the character didn't get to live on. But I think if it would have, it had great potential. Another great 90s gimmick is Waylon Mercy.
Fucking Bray Wyatt before Bray Wyatt.
I was a huge fan of Waylon Mercy. I loved that gimmick.
Know what I mean?
Know what I mean? And he'd shake the referee's hand and then gouge his opponent in the eyeball and then try to shake his hand. And yeah, there was so many layers to that character, and I really do think they had bigger plans for him. And then Dan Spivey was like, yeah, I'm kind of broke down. I can't do this anymore. My back's all fucked up. So then he...
Know what I mean?
And then he lost to Savio Vega on In Your House, and he was gone. Well, not before he got to put Diesel over on his way out. But... yeah, I thought the Waylon Mercy character was really fucking cool, and it was disappointing that it didn't get to go further.
Oh, that one. You recouped yourself from nails.
Last but certainly not least, Right behind Stone Cold is my number 2 gimmick of the 90s.
Joe Floyd.
Ooh, man. Should have put that on the honorable mentions, too, along with the Pug. And then I'll hit you with a little bit of trivia, too, or a little bit of... fuck it. I'll get to that in a minute. Number 2 on the list, best gimmicks of the 90s. How could we forget The Undertaker?
He was on mine. It was the same thing with Austin. It's like someone else is going to bring him up.
Yeah.
And so...
Yeah. And that's why on a lot of my list I tried to go a little bit outside the box and think of guys that wouldn't necessarily come to your mind initially. But you can't, none of us could have a list without The Undertaker. The greatest gimmick of all time has to be one of the greatest gimmicks of the 90s.
The longest gimmick, I think.
You're going on, 28 years or whatever as The Undertaker? Evolving the character. And the character, once again, like Kane, it was a character that wasn't supposed to last more than a year. He was supposed to be built up to fight Hulk Hogan, lose to Hulk Hogan, and be gone. That was the original intention for The Undertaker. So, yeah. I mean, really, do we really need to discuss that one?
No.
It's the fucking Undertaker.
It's like the Jennifer Aniston of wrestling gimmicks. It shouldn't even be on the list.
Honestly,
without saying.
It's like there's few wrestlers that it's like it's them. It's like it's The Undertaker. It's fucking Ric Flair. Like just it's fucking Stone Cold. Like you don't need to fucking say anything about it.
Doesn't need to be spoken of. All right, so that's it. Best 90s wrestling gimmicks on the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Good list, gentlemen.
You don't want to hear my bonus ones?
Oh, of course I do.
Okay. Do you want the 2 that were legitimately going to be on the list, or the 2 that I was going to put as guilty pleasures first?
Either. Or all.
Well, I'm going to give you all, but okay, I'll go with the legitimate ones first. The first one is going to be Tatanka.
Yeah. Yeah, I was a Tatanka mark back in the 90s.
I'm still a Tatanka mark. I love that dude. And then the other one was the Mountie. I love the Mountie. That dude, that character is one of the most abrasive and just loud pricks that's ever been, and the guy's great. I think John Rougeau, I would like everything I hear about him. He's his own worst enemy. Mm-hmm. But I think he deserves a lot more credit in the wrestling business than he gets. But he's got a big mouth, and he's like the complete opposite of his brother.
Yeah.
Like his brother works at WWE today.
Shits his own bed too much.
Yeah. And then 2 that were ridiculous, and I didn't put them on there, but I just enjoyed them, were the Body Donnas.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the Body Donnas were great because they just come out there and fat shame people, and they had funky music, and they were both like Chris Candido was ridiculous, and Sonny was hot, and it just worked. And then another gimmick that I don't think got enough credit, and I think could have been a bigger deal if they would have did something more with it, was Big Bully Busick.
Yeah, I liked Big Bully Busick.
I like Big Bully Busick. He come out there and like pop people's balloons, like little kids' balloons, and like
paired up with Harvey Whippleman.
Harvey Whippleman. Yeah, I think Bully Busick didn't get enough. He didn't get enough time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And now he did.
Yeah, he did now.
So, in the thing I said I was gonna, there's some of the stuff that we already know. Like I was reading this article about, gimmicks that were supposed to be given to wrestlers. Like we all know, the talk that Terry Taylor was supposed to be Mr. Perfect. So Kurt Hennig could have wound up the Red Rooster or whatever.
And Jim Hellwig was supposed to be Big Van Vader.
Yes. A couple that I didn't know about that I thought were fun that I was reading about in this article. And we talked about gimmicks from the 90s. 1995, WWE brought in Bill Irwin, and he wrestled as the Goon. Everybody remembers the Goon, right?
Yes.
Do you know who they originally were trying to get to play the Goon?
Chris Jericho?
Yes. Did you know that, Kyle?
No, really?
They wanted Chris Jericho to be the Goon because they were going to play off of his dad's hockey background or whatever. So, that could have made Chris Jericho's career go much differently.
Well, Jim Cornette has gone on record of saying that they wanted him... Because in 95... like 94, 95, 96, they were giving enhancement guys gimmicks.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, he told D'Lo Brown to stay as far away from that shit as he could.
They were like, we want to talk to D'Lo Brown, and Jim Cornette got a hold of D'Lo Brown first and was like, don't answer the phone. Don't do this.
And then last but not least, in this article that I read, I didn't know about this one. But did you know, in 1986, when Harley Race first came to the WWF, what Vince McMahon pitched to him as his first idea for his character?
What's that?
He wanted... Okay, so WWF had Terry Funk and Dory Funk, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you remember Jimmy Jack Funk.
Yeah.
Vince McMahon originally wanted Harley to be with Dory and Terry. And he wanted him to dress in the mask and the chaps and call him Hangman Harley Race.
Harley Race apparently didn't like that.
Yeah, apparently not.
What do you blame?
But yeah, he wanted to take Harley Race and dress him up as a cowboy and put him with the Funks and call him Hangman Harley Race. With the mask and the assless chaps and the bullwhip.
Which, honestly, Harley Race has probably dressed like that before.
And Harley Race probably would have Harley Race probably would have rocked that gimmick too, because that man could do anything. But yeah, I thought
I'm sure that guy's been in some assless chaps before in his life.
Is anything wrong with that?
I'm not saying there isn't. Ric Flair was probably there.
Kabuki.
Take the damn money.
Take the damn money. All right.
Take the damn money and buy the cocaine. I don't know if Harley Race ever did cocaine.
What? I'm gonna put. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry, but Harley Race did cocaine.
Greatest line in the history of anything to ever do with Harley Race was Bobby Heenan. He was like, when I heard they said we were going to be here with Harley Race and we're going to be inducted, I thought they said indicted. And then he's like, how many times are you champion, Harley? And Harley's just staring off into space, and he's like, hey, you got to respond to me before they start throwing dirt on you.
Oh, shit.
Another one that I thought, it wasn't in that article I read, but another one I just thought of was they originally weren't going to turn Lex Luger face. They were going to make Crush be the guy that body slammed Yokozuna on the Intrepid.
How do you think that would have went?
Couldn't have been any worse.
This is true.
Brian Clark was 10 times better than fucking Lex Luger. Brian Adams, could at least work.
Yeah. So anyway, all right. Next week, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what we're doing yet, but next week's going to be our 50th episode, so we'll do something special for the 50th episode. And
we're gonna murder a hobo.
Mark for edit.
So we're coming for you, Jake Roberts.
Don't drink the
Well,
piss,
I can
Jake.
see that you never want to run for office, so that's good to know.
Don't drink the... Actually, if you murder a hobo, you're more likely to be elected to office, I believe.
Oh, this is true.
All right.
Speaking of politics, did you see fucking George Bush give Michelle Obama candy?
Yeah, I was going to say that. I was going to say, I think it was last night when we were watching the pay-per-view, I was going to tell you guys that one of the funniest friendships in the entire world is George W. Bush and Michelle Obama. They, like, totally dig on each other. Like, anytime you see them around each other or whatever, they're just tight as fucking can be. It's just so funny to me. Like, they're just buddy-buddy.
Hey, I have friends that are way smarter than me that I shouldn't be friends with. And they answer questions for me. And then I just say stupid shit and make them laugh. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what probably their relationship's like.
But yeah, I did see that though. George passing her a mint at the funeral or whatever. You know, Laura's like, he did always have a thing for them chocolate ladies.
Which, good for him. I mean, fucking, he's how old and still kind of can get it. So, I mean.
Well, and it's one of those things where people are like, wow, that's really, they're crossing the aisle and blah, 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 and the Obamas and the Bushes are friends and that shit.
They all eat at the same
Exactly. They all go to, from the beginning, they all go to the same restaurants, they all go to the same dinner parties, they all get money from the same people.
Just in case anybody doesn't know, the big secret, they're all fucking you. So don't vote for any of them. Because you vote for one, you're just voting for the other one. Nobody vote.
No, that's different, though. You're wrong.
But Aaron, you got to rock the vote, though.
No, he's wrong.
All I got to do is rock these gym shorts, and I'll be all right.
No,
good.
He's wrong. You're wrong. It does matter who you vote for.
I don't vote, so.
Well, then you have no right to complain.
No, I think I have all the right in the world to complain because I didn't put the guy there. Y'all did. So when they messed shit up, that was your decision.
No, all the people that didn't come out to vote 2 years ago are the reason fucking Trump's in office right now, because they could have changed it. Because since you didn't go vote. Because since you didn't, and I don't like Hillary Clinton, so I'm not even talking about when Hillary Clinton was running. I'm talking about even just the general election. Now you got me fired up. Since you didn't go vote, fucking the guy with the swastika living in his trailer did go vote, and you didn't, so you didn't counter his vote, so Trump won. So the whole my vote doesn't count is a complete, utter fucking lazy bullshit answer to that question.
I didn't say my vote didn't count.
Or doesn't matter, or whatever.
I didn't say my vote didn't matter either. I don't
When
agree
people
with,
say that.
Listen, I didn't say that.
When people say that, it's bullshit.
Okay, well, I didn't
because
say
they're
that.
the lazy.
Are you going to let me say my piece?
When I'm done. Lazy.
Right now you're calling me lazy, and I'm not lazy.
Okay. Politically lazy people in our country.
I'm not politically lazy either.
Not voting is politically lazy.
No, it isn't.
Why? Explain that one to me. The biggest role you can play in the political process. The biggest role you can play in the political process is voting, because talking does nothing.
I don't usually talk about it. How often do I talk to you about politics?
Never.
Okay. So I don't usually talk about it, right?
Right.
Because I also don't agree with just going to vote for somebody because you don't like the other guy. If I don't like either one of them or any of the lot of them, I'm not going to give them my support at all.
Sometimes you have to pick the lesser of two evils.
No, you don't.
Yeah, you do.
Just not
the
pick.
last election is proof that you have to pick the lesser of two evils. I don't like Hillary Clinton. I think her and her husband are complete and utter pieces of trash. But I voted for Hillary Clinton because she was the lesser of two evils. We were better off with her for 4 years than we are with him for 4 years. She's not going to get us into World War III. She's not going to fuck everything up, and he is. So sometimes the way the political process works, unfortunately, like anything else in life, sometimes you have to fucking keep the trash inside for a couple of days.
Well, I'm just saying, if we just keep running the cliff like a bunch of lemmings, then it's never going to change.
You're right, and you know what?
I know I'm right. Thank you.
We should have put the American.
Goodbye. Don't cry.
If the American public would have put John McCain in office,
we'd be having another election, or we'd have a new president.
Well, no, because he wouldn't have expired, but he died after his 2 terms would have been up. So, no, but it would have been different. So what I'm saying is, your vote does matter. What we do does matter. Whether you vote for the lesser, voting is the only thing.
I'm just saying, I never said that my vote doesn't matter.
No, I know.
I said that it's my.
But not voting is irresponsible. And I think
it's my right as an American to vote, right?
Yes.
Then it's my right as an American not to vote.
Okay, but it's the only voice you have. So if you aren't going to use it, then what's the point in having it?
Then somebody else can have mine and they can vote twice.
All right, I'll take it.
I don't really give a shit. Because guess what? At the end of the day, I am a lower to middle class American, and the entire time we've had all these different presidents, my social standards, or my social, how do I want to say it? Like, I make enough to live comfortably, but I don't make enough to where if the economy has something bad happen to it, that I'm worried. You know what I'm saying? But
it does make a difference in people's lives. Let me give you an example. I'm still recording this. Jesus, I should have fucking... Anyway, let me give you an example of how it does matter, okay? Just real quick. It does matter. Because, example, my wife and I both, 2 jobs, 2 separate insurances, okay? Before that wretched fucking Obamacare, her and I could have been on the same insurance. One of us, we could have said, whose insurance is better? Picked one and paid $150 to $200 a month for insurance. Since Obamacare got passed, we are not allowed to do that anymore. So now we have to both carry our own insurance through our employers, since they both offer insurance. And instead of $150 to $200 a month, we have to pay $500 a month in insurance. That's why it makes a difference. It does make a difference for regular people. Because before, we were spending $200 a month in insurance, and after that bullshit, we are spending $300. Do you see what I'm saying, though? It does make a difference.
But to me personally,
for regular people,
it hasn't affected me at all.
Not yet.
I don't have no kids. I ain't married.
Not yet.
Not never. I don't want kids.
But it wouldn't make a difference if her.
Nuts.
It wouldn't make a difference if her and I had kids anyway. We still had to pay, because of fucking Obamacare. We have to pay $300 more a month in insurance.
I know, and I don't plan on getting married. And I've gotten a couple raises and a nice car, and I'm okay, and I can afford beer.
Well, that's because
I'm all right.
And that's because you're a hardworking person who's personally responsible. But what I'm telling you is, I know that it doesn't.
I wouldn't go that far. I'm a hardworking person.
You're personally responsible because you get up and go to work every day. That's a big personal responsibility. Ask most of the people that live in our town.
Sometimes my socks don't match, but I go in.
I think here's the issue, and I know I've been quiet here recently, but the issue is that, yes, things might be okay for you, and things might be okay for, me and stuff. I mean, I'm blessed with a good job. I mean, but the problem is that, future generations may not be.
Kyle, we won't mention the name of your company, but you work for an auto manufacturer.
Correct, yeah.
And if we get the wrong president with the wrong ideas about trade, your job could be gone next year.
Exactly.
Okay. So yeah, there you go.
You know, but the sad part and the scary part about it is that, you know, my nephew who is just turned 11, you know, who knows what the fucking job market's going to be in 8 years when he enters into it, or if he decides to go to college or whatever the case might be. I mean, the fact is that I want to see, like, in my plant where I work right now, we have people who are temps and they only work 3 days a week. And, you know, I want to see everybody be able to make as much money as they can because we all keep getting bills. And quite honestly, the thing that people have seemed to have forgotten in this fucking country is the fact that if you want to have money to spend, you need to be able to pay your fucking employees a decent wage so they can go out and buy those goods that you make.
Mm-hmm.
That is the problem with capitalism. Capitalism is great, don't get me wrong, but the problem is that instead of it working itself out, it's, well, I'm going to make the most money I can.
Well, but the problem with the minimum wage thing is if they were to raise the minimum wage is a myth, and here's why. Because, okay, if the minimum wage
keep raising it, there's not a minimum.
Well, not just that, but if they raise the national minimum wage to $15 an hour, then a $5 footlong becomes a $9 footlong. Then $1.98 milk at Walmart becomes $2.83 milk at Walmart. The raising the minimum wage will do nothing because the prices are going to be that much more than the minimum wage regardless. Why? Because you've raised the minimum wage, so these companies have to figure out a way to pay that minimum wage.
But see, the problem, I think the biggest problem that I see, Nate, is the fact that, okay, it's just like that. I won't state where anybody works, but I've worked in retail before, and I've had conversations with my supervisors where they're like, hey, we have to cut, you know, so many hours this year because they want it below what it was last year. And it's like, you not understand that eventually there's not going to be any hours to cut.
They don't care, though.
No, and I understand that. And I think the problem is that because we have allowed people to become publicly traded companies where they answer to a board of directors, where instead of making $4 million in profit this year, they want 4.5. And the problem is that you're still making $4 million in profit, but your workers and the people that work there, they're losing out. So they're not going to be able to buy those TVs and buy the, you know, the niceties and stuff that people want.
Something tells me that the three of us need another podcast.
I think so.
I just know that I almost voted one time for president. And I would have voted for John McCain. And then he brought his nurse. He was like, I'm going to take my nurse with me. I was like, I don't like your nurse, man. And you have health issues and you could pass. And I don't want that. I don't want that lady being president. Like, I don't. And then I'm done with this after that because I gotta get up for a minute. But the other, I don't agree with just voting for somebody just because you don't like the other guy or the other lady.
I don't vote for somebody because I don't like the other guy or the other lady. Normally, this last election for me was an anomaly. I voted for Hillary even though I hate her politics, and I hate her husband's politics, and they're disgusting human beings. I voted for her because I didn't want Trump to be president. But every other time I voted for somebody, I really have voted because they're the one that captures and represents the ideals that I believe in.
And that's fine. That's what I can respect.
But
so all I would ask for is for somebody to respect the fact that I refuse to just blindly vote for somebody just because they're the person that I hate the least. That's not how it should be.
No, but
when somebody
when
gets
you're
up
put
there
it,
and speaks
when you're
to me,
put
I'll
into
go and vote for
when you're put into that position, we were put into that position, and we were put into that position because during the primary process, people didn't come out and vote. So the wackos came out and voted, and they put Trump in the position he was in.
That's good for the wackos, because guess what? They found somebody they agreed with. Nobody that's ever got up on that stage is anybody that I've agreed with since I've been able to vote, except for John McCain. And then, like I said, he brought Sarah Palin into the picture, and I was like, I can't support that because she's a fucking moron.
I'm going to roll Tootsie. And like I said, we may have to talk about founding another another podcast here in the Motley Soup Network, because I like the last
I'm going to roll Tootsie.
half hour. I'm rolling a Tootsie right now.
That sounds like a weed reference.
I was about to say
Back
this.
in the day.
Sounds like a drug reference. Well, Aaron, Kyle, say goodbye to our listeners.
Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, Tootsie. Goodbye. Thank you for joining us on the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Please make sure to join us next week, as it will be episode number 50. We do a lot. We're like WCW Nitro here. We book a lot on the fly, but we'll have something good for you next week. Thank you for joining
I'm in jail.
Thank you for joining us, wrestling fans. We'll see you next week on the We Can't Wrestle podcast.
That's hot. I love when he says that. That's hot.